Yeah. I think that's definitely 100 Thieves' problem is they're not good enough. Like they're like, I mean,
that's it right there. They're just not good enough, bro.
Yeah.
Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and as always, I'm joined by my buddies, my co-hosts. We've got Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair, and we're here to talk all things LCS and League of Legends, and it's good to be back and talking with you guys because I love this game. And before we react to the very quick week of games and all the news that's happening out there, let me just get an update and see how you guys are doing, how your game's going, how's life going, all that good jazz. So why don't you give our listeners an update on what's going on with y'all?
Yeah, games are going fine. I've been watching LCK and LPL playoffs. Those have been very lit, so that's been awesome. LPL has been like every day in a row. There's like one break day, so the train never stops. I'm gonna watch JDG versus BLG after the podcast, so I'm very excited for that.
Cool.
I'm chilling. I'm on spring break right now, so I've just kind of been doing whatever for the last few days. Solo queue's been good. Not complaining.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been having an okay time, but I mean, there's been a lot of controversies. It's like CLG, TSM are leaving, but one controversy did fly under the radar. There's a team that I felt like broke some rules over the weekend. FlyQuest, they subbed in Tactical for Game 3. Like, I feel like that's an illegal sub-in. That's an Malphite cosplay. So that's been really going under the radar.
Oh no, he straight up called them.
Sneak Tactical in there. He played for EG also. That was weird as well, but I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Rough weekend for some players.
Dude, you're right, man. I mean, it was some interesting gameplay. Obviously, I know my predictions didn't go correctly. Some of them went correctly in the games, but not in the direction of who I thought would win. So not very good or accurate. But before we get into that, because it was 2-3-0 series, so, pretty dominant performances. So we'll get to that. But I think we need to talk about the more pressing matter news event that's been going on. And that is the selling of CLG. And kind of, for me at least, it was a surprise because we knew that TSM was scaling back esports. It looked like they weren't investing anymore in it, and it was questionable what was going to happen with the LCS team. And then out of nowhere, CLG just drops this bomb and they're selling. The Madison Square Group is selling it. It looks like they will keep. They fired everyone except their league vertical, and I don't know. I think eventually the thinking is that it's going to be a new company that buys them out. Hopefully the rosters, the players on there are still okay, but we'll have to see. Yeah, Energy. So it might be a rebrand. But still a lot of question marks going on there. So I got to get your initial reactions. These are two storied orgs for League of Legends, and so we need to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting feeling because TSM's news came out first, so you saw people kind of like being sad. Some people were clowning on them about how CLG finally won the rivalry.
Yeah, that's right.
Like that. And then like a day or two later, CLG's news comes out. And to be clear, from what we know, CLG's news is actually worse. CLG is just straight out, right? Like they're just being sold off. And yeah, they might become NRG, but that's not the same as TSM, where TSM is cutting back on everything that isn't like pretty much probably Apex and League. And the other news is that TSM League was like, they were potentially being offered near minimum or minimum LCS salary. They were given 24-hour notice to accept the minimum salary. This is what Travis was reporting. And very interestingly, a TSM special. TSM's GM comes up and responds and says that these are all lies and that Travis is a liar. And I was like, interesting. Every time a journalist figure or someone who reports stuff about TSM comes out, doesn't matter who they are, they get called a liar. And then, TSM gives some like things that are like half truths. Like he was like, they were given many days. I'm like, well, you didn't say weeks. So what are we talking? Like 4 days? 3 days,
right.
Not a day. Like, I don't know if you've ever worked a job, but if you've ever worked a job, 24 hours to go explore the market or you get minimum salary is not a lot of time.
No.
72 hours, not much better. And so they also said that they did not offer them minimum salary. Or are paying them. No one said they were paying minimum salary, first of all. And yeah, maybe they're not being offered minimum salary, but minimum salary plus $1 is not minimum salary.
Yeah,
So,
right.
You know, whatever it is, we'll see when more info comes out. But this is the TSM special, guys. That's what I got to say about it. And last thing I'll say is it is a big loss. CLG is a big loss because they actually started rebuilding their brand. They were having like a cool, feels good comeback story. They have a very NA heavy roster, and they were improving split over split, or at least like trying things, right? So I hope at least the players stay or some of the staff stay, but it's hard to say, right? NRG might just have their own ideas of how to build a roster. They might actually want to try to go for 1st. And for TSM, that is also a big deal, but it's not as bad as it looks. It's bad for the scene that TSM's exiting, or at least exiting their investment. But if this was like 3 years ago, this would be cataclysmic. Right now, it's a bad sign for where teams that aren't successful and don't have good structures right now and good funding backup, because of the FTX deal. It's a bad sign, but it's not the end of the world.
Anything you can do, I can do better. That was kind of my initial thought.
Yeah.
Because TSM and then CLG right after the old rivalry stays true. But as real, it's kind of bittersweet to me because a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, if CLG dropped, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, you're just perma 10th fighting for 10th with Golden Guardians. But like Kevin said, they're kind of just they're getting better. I've been really looking forward to watching this team, and now they're just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad to see.
As for TSM, I mean, I feel like kind of saw this one coming, to be honest. Reggie, then FTX. It's kind of been in the making for a while. I feel like, which obviously it's a shame, but hopefully things go well, and we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like for TSM it has been in the making. I think we heard a rumor maybe last year that they were thinking of leaving anyways, for TSM. And then, FTX, like you said, crashed. Crypto is not great to invest in. And overall the org is just really soured, right? But let's not forget, TSM kind of like it honestly created League of Legends as like a social like game and like a vibe, I guess. Bay life is a vibe that people really ascribe to. Like
Yeah, I
people
remember
really
that.
latched onto that idea for the first like 5 to 10 years of League of Legends. Like not just NA LCS. Like that thing was global, right? You can go to an esports arena during those years without hearing TSM chants.
That's right.
TSM's not in the country. It's not League of Legends being played. Yeah, you'll hear TSM chants in the crowd. So it is very like it's an iconic loss. But it's one of those losses where it's like it's not like going out with a bang. It's like it's leaving LCS like I don't know, with like its limbs partially cut off, it's limping out. TSM has been rough. I mean, from what we know, their team has literally been 5 players and 1 coach. And that one coach is doing both their academy and their LCS team. So they're already on like a bare bones sort of thing. And honestly, like we need Reggie to leave, right? Like we're already having issues with EG too. Like we do need for the future of LCS to just have solid, good organizations that are good to the people, CEOs that are good to the people. CLG is a sad one because I do feel like, Alistair, you had your own personal experiences too, but from what I've heard, there was like a certain moment where CLG staff had like a rebuild and they all of a sudden started being good and being nice to their players because there was a time where they were not great to their players for a while.
Yeah.
But something happened, I think maybe in like 2017, 2018 when they were pretty much garbage, but they were all of a sudden being good to their players. So it is sad to see them go. And it is interesting to think about how the CLG roster in playoffs this year kind of had a really strange trajectory. They win streaked their way at the end of the season to make it to the 4th seed of playoffs. Then they had a close series against C9 3-1, and then they completely boomed against EG. I wonder how much stuff behind the scenes that was happening to CLG was like getting on the players' like mentality. Like it's hard to focus if you know that maybe your org's not going to be here anytime soon, or maybe all this stuff is moving around you. I mean, we're going to talk about EG a little bit, I'm sure, later, but I feel like that's the same thing that's happening with EG, right? And all this drama and like crap is happening around your org that has nothing to do with you as a team. It can really like make things hard for you. So, like the thing I want to focus on now, like moving forward, is like I hope like the players on TSM, CLG, EG, like we can give them a bit of a break because their orgs are imploding around them, and it's not really
Mm-hmm.
their fault. And it can be really hard to play at the top of your game, but yeah, sad to see these orgs go, but maybe it's for the better, right? We might get a Mr. Beast team. That would be sick.
Well, that's what I was going to get to when, that was going to be my follow-up question.
Okay.
But before I do that, Kevin, I know it looked like you had something to say. What, did you have a counterpoint or wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I just agree with Mitchell. I think it's the NA special that sometimes, like, when it's a high stakes thing, drama just sets in. Like, I think some of our old Worlds runs, like behind the scenes, when you hear Double If and Medius and Sneaky talking about their past, like they just talk about drama either happening in their teams or other top teams, and just like even as old as like when Dignitas like leaked TSM strats, or was it TSM leaks Dignitas? It might have been
Yeah,
the
it was
other way.
TSM leaks
TSM leaking
Dignitas.
Dignitas with the
Yeah.
Shaco thing. Like it just happens. We just can't, and they just can't avoid drama, and it ruins our teams sometimes. And it's just part of our culture at this point as a
Yeah.
NA esports.
Yeah.
So it makes
Yeah.
us popular.
It does.
True,
The drama
true,
is
true, true.
actually what I live for nowadays. I mean, a lot of times when we're doing this podcast, the first half hour, it's just us talking about drama going on. It's the exciting part. But I mean, going back to these orgs, like, it is a big deal because, I guess these were grassroots organizations. You're talking about Reggie, Hotshot, and honestly, I think they just. I mean, even if you go back to like Carlos and G2, like you see a lot of immaturity coming out. Like Hotshot got out early. He was just like, forget this. It's like too much. It is very hard when you go from building up something, as a group of friends, and you're building this little thing, but now it becomes like global. That's a big transition, and it just feels like a lot of these young uh, owners, CEOs didn't quite have the skills translate over into actually managing and running like a global organization where people depend on you, like people's jobs, livelihoods, all of that stuff, careers, all depend on you. And you could see it in a lot of the actions that they do. I'm not saying that it's just young people, but a lot of those guys have made mistakes that have really hurt the brand. I think Jack is, he was an older guy. I mean, look at C9. I'm not saying they're without issues, but you could see that organization running a little bit smoother. Steve, I know he's not old, but he's definitely made strides into actually being a business owner. Like we can laugh and say he just spends money, and does that, but you could see that he actually treats his players right. Like I even, when Double Lift was gone, you could tell that him and Steve and Double, if they had conversations to make sure that everything was going to be taken care of. So you could tell he cares about the people besides them just being players. So now what I want to lead into is, because they're exiting these orgs, these storied organizations, we talk about, oh, maybe Mr. Beast will come in or we'll have all these people. But with the decline of spending in esports and two really historic franchises leaving the LCS, do you think interest will still be there to invest and get into something like the LCS when all signs apparently are looking like it's a losing game? So let me get your thoughts on that. Like, can we actually attract companies to invest in the LCS?
I don't think we'll attract the same kind of companies that we were having before, like the venture capitalist firms, the Peak Sixes of the world, the whatever Disney money and is funding TL, stuff like that. I think we'll have way less of that. What I do think we'll have, and I don't think it's a very hot take, is just like new, different kinds of creators, people who think are investors, who think they'll see an opportunity there. Like whenever there's a recession, whenever there's a downturn, there are people who are willing to take a risk who probably know the space better, right? They're not just doing it because it's a hot new thing. And so there's rumors of Mr. Beast. We already saw like they won't join, but like Moist Esports did other esports, and they started making teams in Valorant, which is another Riot's thing. I think that's probably for the better. I mean, that is probably a more healthy, longer term investment. People who actually care about the scene, who care to listen to the opinions of the people they hire, probably because they kind of understand the space, will probably last longer, and at the very least, we'll get more new eyeballs.
I definitely think there's still gonna be a lot of interest. I think because there's been a lot of teams that have been really wanting this opportunity, that haven't had it for so long. I mean, if you look at current NACL, there's a lot of orgs that, I mean, they've been amateur orgs, top tier amateur orgs for a long time, and I think there's a good chance that if it wasn't for the past system of academy and stuff, that there was a chance that they would be fighting for relegation or like fighting for 9th and 10th spot in the old system.
Yeah.
So depending on the funding that some of these orgs have, because I don't know those, but I do know there are certain orgs that are considering it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, maybe we'll randomly see like wild card, or we'll
Mhm.
see I don't know, that was the first
Fear.
one that came to mind, the first amateur
maybe,
team that came
or-
to mind.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think there's a good chance, and I think this also does open up an opportunity for a different view on how things are going to work, because it's been very stale, just because of franchising and everything's been the same for so long. So maybe a team will come in and they'll be like old Cloud9, where they are developing new talent very well, or something. I don't know, but
Yeah, I do think that over the years interest has died down, but I mean, I think Mr. Beast, wasn't he just at LCS last year?
he was at
Uh,
Yeah.
Worlds.
He was at Worlds.
Worlds.
Okay, so I mean, for that one, he was just there, so I feel like he's pretty in tune. I mean, he did a whole thing where he played with like Doublelift and Tyler One and some other famous dude. So
Mhm.
I honestly feel like that one's fairly likely. And also knowing Mr. Beast is he loves clout, loves anything that's popular.
Yeah.
He loves to be on the front page and the most talked about thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, honestly. He probably has plenty of money to just throw that way too if he wants. So I think that would be really cool because it would definitely get like a whole different generation of kids
Mhm.
interested in League who all think League is like some boomer ass crap game. So I think that's like the best timeline for us.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're listening to the co-stream, if you're going around listening to other podcasts with like Monty or like Dom or LS or even Casual, like yeah, overall word around the block is, and LCS is not the greatest investment to make. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got a Mr. Beast because he's like kind of YOLOing it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he was gone within a year, you know?
Mhm.
So I do hope like we maybe get like a challenger team who gets like something to give them a bunch of money so that they can do something, because clearly challenger teams like Fear and Wildcard and stuff, they actually care about League of Legends, or just some other uh, person or organization that genuinely cares about the scene that gets into it. Because I mean, you guys remember Optic, you guys remember like Winter Fox, like we've had a lot of orgs come in and go and just like not really give a crap. So those always hurt the league, I think.
Yeah.
And LCS needs to honestly be more picky and hope that they pick someone good.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think I was just thinking about like, you know, these new orgs that potentially come in and having to build the brand. Honestly, I think the way you do that is just find players who, this is going to sound weird, but I would put more value in finding players that are more charismatic, that have personality, that you can really build a brand around. I mean, I think the LCS has done a really good job, you know, even with the dive or on the shows, bringing in the pros and like really hearing them in their interviews and getting more personality. I don't know if you've seen like, Are You Smarter Than an Analyst, or yeah, just like all these different things. Or even I think Team Liquid put out Backseat Gaming, and it's like Kobe playing and like Whippo and who's the other? Yeah, Broxa, yeah, he's on there. They're like telling him what to do. But what I like about that is that we're getting to see more players. Like even this one, like seeing Licorice, like, yeah, I don't think he's a good player, but hearing his personality and like hearing like his mentality. Well, I mean, if you really listen to him, his mindset, it's good. It's in a good place. Like he's really done a great job at keeping his mental health strong despite all the criticism and all the things that go on. So I'm really happy to see that, because if anything, yeah, we can meme him, but I like that. I like him as a person, and that kind of builds his brand. So I'm hoping that newer orgs will take note of that and kind of, you know, you help the players as well by emphasizing that they get to know, or let people get to know them and their personality, because it goes beyond just the org and what they're winning. it builds their brand, which overall helps them as their career goes. Because look at Doublelift, he could still just go back to co-streaming and he'll be perfectly fine. So that's my take, and I hope that maybe they'll emphasize more on that. I do like how LCS is doing that, but let's move on from there and actually go to the LCS games. Very quick, very quick 3-0s. I was hoping for more games, but it is what it is. And I want to talk first about Cloud9 FlyQuest, because obviously that was what everybody's 1 and 2 was, and it was pretty quick. You know, I think if anything, this reiterated 2 points. C9 is really good, and FlyQuest has some issues. I think, you know, both were just polarizing in what we saw. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that. You could talk about gameplay, your thoughts on either of the orgs, but let's dive into Cloud9 versus FlyQuest.
So one of the interesting things I noticed was that Blabber just had to play tanks. Like he just played Maokai, Sej, I believe.
Sejuani, yeah.
3, and he did really well. And it would not, in a diplex world, it'd be inting to put Blabber on tanks every game, right? You could not have that flexibility in draft where he could be a hard carry or a tank player, and like you have a very solid mid jungles. MNS showed up. IMO. I think he did a lot better than I expected. I thought Vikla would beat the shit out of him, to be honest. Even though like Vikla did have his bad regular season, his one series they played before him, he played well. So I was like, okay, Vikla's outclasses MNS. He's still too new. We still don't see him on stage that much. He's probably gonna lose to his Korean senpai or whatever. So all that to say, MNS played pretty decently. I think the bot lane was the biggest gap, though. I think that
I told you, I called it. I'm telling you.
You were right. You're right.
Yeah.
Berserker Zen, especially like the duo, like I think Zen played quite well too. Berserker like just knew his ins. Like they would go for a 3-man dive bot, and then C9 would just get a kill anyways out of it, and the jungler would come over. And I was just like, okay, what is going on? I think that Prince is on the chopping block at the rate he's going. I still have like faith he might be able to win the next series, but he's going the NA route, guys. He just, without the 7 ping practice and the more competitive scene with all the best players in Asia playing, I think he just like his skill just drained. While Berserker somehow has kept his class. Like, could Berserker have been better if he like started for T1? Yeah, of course. But as far as the NA skill draining goes, he's like resisted, and that's honestly one of the highest like things you can achieve. He's like not on impact level because it's been much longer, but he's on that route. So I think that FlyQuest looks terrible in terms of their coordination. Their singular play, not terrible, but they still did get outclassed at times.
In my opinion, I personally, I'm originally against the idea, but the way I see it, their back's up against the walls. Bring back Winsome.
Yep, I knew it. I knew you were gonna say it. That's what I'm saying, man.
I don't like role swapping or support swapping like this, or really any swapping in general. But the way I see it, Isla has not looked good for weeks. His Rakan play this weekend was abysmal. I don't want to see that again. I think they just have a better chance with Winsome in. Because I definitely think Prince did not look good this weekend, but it's really hard to look good as an ADC when your support is just running it down. It's like summit tier running it down. I just think they need to bring back Winsome and have him play this coming weekend. And I just think it's their best chance if they actually want to win, because they're just getting ultra support gapped in every game, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of bring over like an overall narrative that I think FlyQuest kind of really supports, and that's that this there's a bit of copium out there for a lot of NA teams that I think that this split is really tough for a lot of teams. So a lot of orgs, right? They cut down on spending from last year to this year. So we know this about TSM already, and I'm pretty sure this is the same thing for 100 Thieves. They're talking about on the co-stream is that 100 Thieves' team, like, they don't have like a bunch of positional coaches and analysts. Like, it's just 5 dudes and Nuke Duck, and it's honestly just a player-led team. Like, Nuke Duck is just there to, I don't know, facilitate, right? But I'm pretty sure like 100 Thieves' salaries are all much lower than they would have been last year, and that the support staff around them is close to non-existent, if just a coach, right? And So you have Doublelift. He's on the co-stream, and Meteos asked him a very simple question, like, "Do you ever think you could go Gale Force on Jinx?" And he's like, I'm not really sure. I thought about it, but I was like to my teammates, like, "Do you think it'd be good?" Like, he doesn't have an analyst or a positional coach telling him, "Yes, build Gale Force," or "No, don't build Gale Force." Right? He just doesn't know. So what I'm saying is that a lot of these orgs, like FlyQuest, they're probably not equipped to handle like accepting a player like Prince and Vikla. Like they've never had a star player like Prince before. Um, they haven't really been a top team ever, right? This is
It's
third
true.
place finish minimum is the second best they've ever finished. Like otherwise, it's been second places twice in a row, only in 2020. So for the FlyQuest org, like being a top team is completely new to them. They're in like a new era of LCS where not only is funding lower, but also the schedule is completely changed, right? Formats are changing across the world. There's like massive patch changes, 5 game-breaking patches this split alone. So when I think of like a team that's completely rescaled and reshaped, new players, rookie players, a role swap or a roster change in the middle of it due to visa issues. Like, I mean, teams like FlyQuest, even teams like I don't know CLG or not CLG, Golden Guardians, 100 Thieves, like a lot of these teams that made like big changes that didn't do so great or are struggling to do good. Like it makes sense. Like this was a really hard split for a
Yeah.
new team to do well in. So that's the copium I want to give out. Like we shouldn't be too harsh on these guys because if you think of Ayla's spot, he is getting so much flack. And to be fair, he talked a lot of trash. Okay, and when you talk trash and you do poorly, you get hit back. But you know what? I'm okay with other pros doing it, right? If Sven wants to talk trash about you after he beat you 3-0, or if Doublelift wants to talk trash about you after he loses you on the co-stream, I'm okay with pro players doing it. But when you're just like some random ass dude on Reddit or Twitter spamming him's DMs telling Ayla to quit playing and to go end himself, like that's just ridiculous, right? So this guy is literally a rookie. Like Ayla has never played a full split in his life, and this is his first playoffs ever. So it really sucks for him that this is how it's going for him because like just a year ago we were saying this guy's like the next core JJ. His Thresh Rakan is awesome, and he's clearly struggling this year. I mean, I want to say the same to Vikla, right? He's not a he's not a rookie, but he's also not like a veteran. He's a very green player. I think he played maybe 1 year, or like 1.5 splits or something like that. So for these players, right, for FlyQuest, like their mid and support are clearly their weakest link, but also like, sucks. It was a hard split, guys. Like C9 kept 4 out of the 5 roster that won the split last year. It's just kind of not fair, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to say for FlyQuest. Yeah, they sucked. Yeah, their drafts were terrible, but I mean, what are you supposed to do, right? Things didn't work out for you. Meta shifted away from you, and C9 is just an already established team. They have
Yeah.
been for a long ass time.
I mean, if I'm FlyQuest, what I would want them to focus on is the things they have accomplished this year. Because they still, look, even though things have shifted, changed, I know it's in a crummy situation, but they did accomplish a lot, this year. I mean, yeah, I mean, they did really remarkable things. But I do I do agree with Alistair that a pivot might be necessary. Is this the best timing? No, but it might be necessary because I heard, and they were talking about this on the dive as well. It's like not only is Ayla's confidence probably, wavering, but they mentioned a good point in that Prince's confidence in Ayla may be wavering, if not already wavered, because it's like when you're support, especially a person that you actually have to lane with, like, let alone team synergy, but a lane partner, if you can't trust them or they're constantly making bad decisions and you're just like, you can't do anything, like he's going to have a hard time trusting him when, let's say, Ayla makes a call or like decides to go in, and that trust is not going to be there. And so you compare that to the results he was having with Winsome, and that might be something that plays into a factor. Like what you can't just think about. I mean, you do obviously think about the team, but you have to consider what is Prince thinking right now. Like was your best player, arguably, maybe him and Spica and Impact, but like you gotta take into fact, like, what does he feel comfortable playing with coming up? Because this is do or die. Like it is, it's spring split, whatever, but I mean, you got no other choices. Like, you can either continue down this path, because even though they've gotten some wins, it just hasn't looked good ever since Ayla's been in. Or, you know, if Prince is like, hey, let's just do it. Let's just bring Winsome back in. I wouldn't mind it. I think it would be terrible for Ayla, because if you watch the co-stream with Double Lift, Medios, and Sneaky, they were just pooping on Ayla the whole time. Like,
Yeah,
it
it's not
was
very
it
nice.
it wasn't very nice at all. And Afromu even got on there. It was just like they were just pouring it in, man. So I feel bad for Ayla. At the same time, like, for the team and for what needs to happen right now, I don't know if he's the best option. So that would be kind of my thing going forward. I think C9, it's like we could talk about them. They're just so on another level that I think we just declare them champions. I mean, I just think they're the champs already. Like, the dive did it at the end. Yeah, okay, you're still going to go.
You know.
Hey, Alistair, your all in is still alive, my friend. So I'm not saying that I want Cloud9 to win. I just don't know if that's a possibility because they're so good.
I gotta give some quick gameplay stuff really quick because I just did
Do
a
it.
whole rant about some other
Yeah,
stuff. but,
go for it.
Definitely for Cloud9, like, it is clear that they're a team that has stuff that they've been working on for longer than 2023. Like, Varus Heimerdinger, they've been like Berserker's event have been scrimming and practicing that since last year, like Worlds.
Mhm.
So it's kind of not fair, right, to put that up against any other LCS bot lane right now, except maybe Luger and Poom, because no one else has been together since then. Same with like the Maokai stuff, right? And Sejuani, like, Blabber's been playing Maokai, Vi, Wukong, Sejuani all of 2022 as well as this year too. So like, I think for a lot of established teams, it's like, yo, they have so much stuff they can just pull out. Like C9, if they get their backs pushed up against the wall in the finals, like, guarantee you they have a ton of extra stuff they can just pull out because this team's been working on it for so long.
Yeah.
So this team is like, I mean, the systems that we all memed last year, it is very
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
It is pretty solid because it seems like when you think about like their drafts and like how they developed through this year, how they basically gave Diplex 9 weeks or nine games, put Eminez in exactly the second half of the LCS. Diplex goes on to be the best NA mid in Challenger, and they win the Challenger tournament or whatever. Diplex is smurfing there. M&S is smurfing here. Like, it's very clear Cloud9 is just like, they've got their stuff together, and like, it's been together for like a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're just very aggressive. I also think like they honestly, like, I don't know, FlyQuest, they had no idea what to draft. Like, they're like, Prince is good at Zeri. Ayla says he's good at Rakan. That's all we got. That's all we're cooking.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's hard. Like, Meteor says this a lot on the co-stream. It's like, I have no idea how good FlyQuest is because C9 is just kicking their skulls in. Like, you
Yeah.
can't tell.
Yeah. I think what makes C9 so fun to watch too is I love it when there's a lot of diversity in the drafts, and particular the bot lane, but also Eminez. Like, Eminez played Tristana, Oriana, and Silas. Like, he could play different styles, even though we know he, maybe prefers a certain style. He's I think shown enough to, at least in the LCS level, that he could play diverse things, whatever they need. Control mage, assassin, AD.
Play a single LeBlanc.
Yeah, he didn't play any LeBlanc. And then Sven played Heimer, Soraka, and Braum. Like, champs that you like, it's very hard to ban against them because I do think they just have so many things in the arsenal. Like you were mentioning, Mitchell, they just have more experience. They've had more time to get a bunch of different comps and practice those. So I think they're a very dangerous team. And for that reason, that's why I think there's just really no chance, in my opinion, for other teams to really catch them right now, at least. I might eat my words, but I'm going all in on that. I just think Cloud9 is at a different level. Did you guys, Alistair or Kevin, have anything else about C9 or FlyQuest?
I would say that my last thing I would say is that FlyQuest could turn it around, but if they were going to do the switch to Winsome, which I think is viable, they wouldn't do it until the finals. I don't think it's worth doing it for their MSI spot.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point. Do you risk it?
I mean, I don't know. I would just be
That's true. That's tough.
I think they think their firepower is enough to win the lower bracket pretty easily, and then they would only take the risk on the people who just destroyed the 3-0 because what's there to lose at that point?
I guess if FlyQuest is confident that they can beat Golden Guardians. I mean, now we can like transition to looking
Yeah.
forward a bit with Golden Guardians and EG and stuff. Is I don't know, Golden Guardians. I don't know if FlyQuest is just gonna like roll over them. I mean, honestly, it's so hard to tell, right?
Yeah.
Because like EG, they just kind of like rolled over and died. It felt like Golden Guardians was playing very solid, but I mean, Golden Guardians had a completely like different draft priority compared to the 100 Thieves series. It's really hard to say, right? When 3-0s across the board, like how strong are these teams? I will say before I let you guys start, because I got to cut in line. Sorry about that, but definitely
Line cutter over here. Just kidding.
Golden Guardians is for sure when they entered playoffs. Actually, when they entered like the last few weeks of LCS regular season, they had no idea what was good. They had no idea what they were good at. They had no idea what to play. And honestly, I still think they kind of don't know. Like they only got on the Maokai train because they saw Blabber do it over and over again. And then you look across the world, right? We had a small period of like Lee Sin and Viego, maybe a Kindred, and then boom, is right back to Maokai, Sejuani, Vi, Wukong every game.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
Maokai was not prioed at all for a solid like 2 to 3 weeks. Now he is back and he is like maybe #1 prio for junglers. And as soon as Golden Guardians like learned from C9 or other teams that you could do that, they're like, oh wait, we're great at Maokai Sejuani. Like that's like the only thing we know how to do. Um, so I mean, I think Golden Guardians is just they're just picking up strats along the way, and like they're literally improving like day after day during playoffs. So for them, I think like FlyQuest's improvement has been very stagnant. I would say Golden Guardians is like on the uptrend, and the real question is, will they uptrend enough to overcome the very stagnant FlyQuest? That is still at a high bar, you know. So yeah.
Yep.
One thing I do want to say just before I move on a little bit, let's not do Isla like we did Danny, please.
Yeah.
I hope we've learned from this mistake.
Yeah.
Isla's also new. Danny was new. You got relentlessly beat on. Let's. I know I said we should sub out Isla. That's partially is like as we said, mental health is catching a lot of flack, especially from people that he probably respects. I mean, he probably grew up watching Afromoo and Afromoo
Right.
beating on him. And I think realistically subbing him out is just like that is like for him, but it's also if they want the best chance at winning, I just think right now he's not it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Yeah.
That being said, I don't actually think they will sub him out. I think he will continue to play, and I think Golden Guardians will win.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Kevin, you got thoughts on Golden Guardians?
Yeah. So the series, what it taught me was that Captain Flowers ruined casting.
Oh my
What
God.
I mean by that is that I think a lot of newer casters, they try to learn from the best, right? Or some of the best, right? So him and Kobe are some of the best in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they try to copy his style, and it really hurts because it just doesn't fit. And if you just keep practicing, but let's say you practice running, right? And you practice off Usain Bolt style. Like, if you just don't have the physique for it or the talent for it, like maybe just try something else. That's what I felt about it. Other things I felt, and on a totally unrelated note, is I think Licorice actually played pretty decently. They actually were able to flex them onto carry roles. They put them onto Rumble, and like the Rumble move was interesting. I mean, did it really matter with the way that EG was playing? Probably not, but it was really cool that they were willing to try it. They kind of reminded me of DRX. They reminded me of like this scrappy team that were just like they were just picking up crap week over week. Like they looked pretty like whatever at the start of the tournament and even the regular season, end of the regular season, and then they just started leveling up, right, getting more strats and being open to change. Honestly, I wish more teams were open to change and not reverting into Maokai Sejuani. Like that's not open to change, guys. That's being scared of taking risks in playoffs and playing easy, safe tanks. So I wish that wasn't how NA always defaulted. There's always a jinx showing up from our heroes when things get hard. So that's what I felt about that. And I felt that jungle mid looked better. I didn't really feel much from the bot lane in terms of like them making a huge difference, but they weren't bad. So that is good. So Golden Guardians turned it around. Sad for EG. Honestly, I want to see a world where there wasn't drama, but there are probably a lot of stories of just teams who flopped in the past who had drama. So
yeah,
what can you do?
I mean, I honestly like the deft thing. I mean, I don't want to brag, but I called that like so many podcasts ago.
Oh Lord, here we
The
go.
DRX,
Here we go.
DRX parallel.
Mitchell tooting his horn. Just
I'm
kidding.
just saying, we got a whole reply from the Golden Guardian social media.
Oh, that's
where
true.
It's like, name the difference between these two pictures. It's a picture of Stixxay and Daft, freaking on the co stream.
Oh,
Like
jeez.
Afro and Sneaky and Meteos and Double Lift or whatever, they're comparing them to DRX. I think
Yeah.
Sneaky and Afromu are the ones talking about it, and I'm like, I did it first. Just saying. You guys
Just
are copying
saying.
me, not the other way around. So, I mean, yeah, Golden Guardians, like, even I started doubting them. Actually, I was doubting them pretty hard for a while.
I think all of us kind of were.
Yeah, and then they're just doing it, right? They're just winning when no one expects them to win. Like, I think like their series against T1 or 100 Thieves is very much like DRX's series against EDG. No one expect them to win, but it was really close and they barely clutched it out, right? Super clutch play from Stixxay. And then, DRX goes against Gen G. It's Golden Guardians versus EDG is like Genji's gonna ruin them, right? And then it's a 3-1 for DRX. This is a 3-0 for Golden Guardians. It's like actually super one-sided. And now we're gonna get to finals. Maybe it's like super close versus them in FlyQuest. I don't know. But for Golden Guardians, I mean, I actually do think their bot lane popped the hell off, right? Because like, the Tristana flex was insane for game 2. It totally mental boomed like the draft for EG. I think game 1 draft for EG was a full AD comp, a bit awkward into Wukong, but that game was very winnable for EG. They just kind of flubbed the mid and late game, which has kind of been their thing. But then game 2, like, it was so doomed. Like, inspired one for a very early gank mid against a Cassante. You can't do anything about that. But then, like, you look at the draft, right? They're playing Ari Vi, Nautilus into like all these tanky people, and you have a Tristana who can just like self peel and stuff. And then you have River. He goes a full clear into like gank bot, success. Gank mid, success. Like, it's just the game's over within 6 minutes. And then, Huhi's Rel is just absolutely popping off, murdering people in flanks and stuff. So I think Golden Guardians actually played very well in combination with EG playing very poorly. And it's one of those things where it's really just hard to tell how good Golden Guardians is. Because, I mean, EG, to comment on them, yeah, they have a lot of drama around them. I think that's something the Dive will never really tackle. Like, they didn't tackle at all in the conversation that we get to tackle.
Yeah.
It's like, they're just focusing on the EG's gameplay. Yeah, EG's gameplay sucked, right? Like, their drafts are pretty bad. JoJo is honestly just a non-factor. Like, Someday is not even close to like impact level, and FBI is just not even close to Danny level.
Yeah.
But like, I just find it hard to blame any of these players, right? Like, they are just
It's
in a
tough.
completely like tough situation with their org collapsing around them. So, I'm just not gonna flame them, right? Like, I feel like they are a team of 5 veterans and they should have done better, but I just can't blame them that much. It just sucks to be in their position.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, this, if anyone doubted Golden Guardians the most, it was me. I predicted 3-0 Evil Geniuses. Last week, I was like, there's no chance Golden Guardians wins this. I was like, Evil Genius just on a different level. And boy, was I wrong. I think, for all the reasons you guys already mentioned, I don't need to rehash them. But I do think it's kind of just, this is why anything can happen, because one team can just find momentum, find, what worked for them. Like you mentioned the junglers draft, with the Maokai and, realizing like, hey, this works. Let's just do it. This is what's been working for us. Let's just do it. Right. Let's just go. Yeah, it's still OP. And, for that reason, it's like, you couple that with Evil Geniuses just kind of having a collapse. Like JoJo definitely, I think most of this season, I know they did on the Dive, and maybe I did kind of too. It was more, I did a lot of copium thinking like, yeah, his laning is good. His laning is good. I mean, we say that about Summit. His laning is good. His laning is good, but it just never clicked on. And I think at some point, like, it just wasn't a good split for JoJo. Like, he just, he was sick. I know that. So there was that reason, but he just was, it's just not good this weekend, this past week. So, again, like, hard to really get a full view without knowing what's going on behind the scenes. I do think on paper this is still a good team. I don't if you were to put the whole who do we replace, I don't think you replace anybody. I think you just give it another run back. Hopefully, things are fixed by a summer split within the organization, and hopefully they can have a better environment. I will say that with Golden Guardians, I am on the hype train again, because I do think that if you match them up against FlyQuest, you've got a bot lane and Stixxay and Huhi who've like had really good synergy, who've played really well. Stixxay again this past week only died one time. He has those moments where he could just pop off and just looks unstoppable. Whereas on the flip side, again, FlyQuest is collapsing with their bot lane, with their duo bot lane. So I think it's kind of a perfect combination, a perfect storm for Golden Guardians to actually be, to be able to win against FlyQuest. So let's do predictions and start there. I mean, I've kind of already said mine. I think Golden Guardians is going to take it. FlyQuest has been good, but man, I think there's just too many issues that we've been seeing, and I don't know if there's enough time to do it. Unless, here's my only stipulation, unless Impact brings out magnificent playoff impact and just puts the team on his shoulders. That coupled with Spica, that's my only what if. But I'm as far as my locking it in, I'm gonna say Golden Guardians, and I'm gonna say 3-1. I don't even know if it's gonna be close. So I'll say 3-1 Golden Guardians.
You see,
Kevin, you've already kind of made your overall prediction. So are you still sticking with it?
oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out what my score would be. Here's the thing: EG 3-0 a floundering CLG. Did we learn anything about EG? Did EG look anywhere as good like a day or two later?
I have no idea.
Or a week or
Yeah.
two? No, absolutely not. Right. So
No.
does Golden Guardians smacking EG around when they might have drama? They might have also their own issues. Maybe there are layoffs coming at EG. Sounds like it might be in the future, prediction wise. I don't know. What I'll say is I think that they have earned the right to be a competitor at the table. It'd be super sick if Golden Guardians made it to MSI, but FlyQuest 3-2.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. FlyQuest 3-2.
So, I mean, I already said I think Golden Guardians is gonna win. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
3-2.
That's true.
Yeah.
But realistically, the only reason I say this, I don't actually think it's gonna happen. I'm saying this because I'm gonna be there in person. I want 5 games.
Yeah.
I think if FlyQuest wins, I think we get maximum 4 games.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
think that is the most likely case. But I want to be there and I want to see 5 games. I think if it's 5 games, I would give it to Golden Guardians.
Oh.
Okay.
That's my
enough.
reasoning.
Yeah. I honestly think that this is a pretty important series, Golden Guardians FlyQuest, almost more important than the finals, because like not only is it send someone to MSI, it sends a completely new team to MSI.
Yeah.
Neither FlyQuest or Golden Guardians have ever been to MSI. Golden Guardians has never placed this high in their history ever. They won their 3rd best of 5 ever in existence.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. And also this is kind of like it's like the underdog versus the top dog, in that like FlyQuest is built on importing the best and buying the best talent and surrounding it with promising rookies.
Can't right now.
Where what?
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I muted by accident. My bad. Sorry. It's someone at my door.
It's cool. It's cool.
I
It's
thought you
cool.
meant you can't buy talent right now. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
My bad. My bad.
Anyways, it's cool. It's cool. And then Golden Guardians is doing the DRX strategy, honestly, right? They buy a bunch of very old names that have been around for a long time, and they get together a motley crew, and they just kind of like go for it, right? So I think like if FlyQuest 3-0's Golden Guardians, then the narrative the whole year was always it's just C9 and FlyQuest at the top. Everybody else is trash, right?
Mhm.
But if Golden Guardians actually manages to just look competitive or make it close against FlyQuest, then it is this narrative that like anything could have happened in LCS, right? EG lost to Golden Guardians, but then CLG almost took it to C9, but then lost to EG, and then 100 Thieves, I mean, they didn't like take it to FlyQuest, but they had close games against FlyQuest, and then they almost took it to Gold. That would mean that like the entire power rankings of the year and everything is actually completely suspect. We have no idea who was ever good at any point, and that really it's just C9 up here, and all the other teams, they're just super inconsistent. They're just trading blows back and forth. Anybody can be good on any day. And I think that the latter one is much more interesting because it makes NA a much more diverse region. It means that we have much more interesting teams, right? If any given day you throw back in CLG, maybe they do take it to FlyQuest or Golden Guardians, and you throw in EG back in, even though they lost. Maybe on the next day they actually beat Golden Guardians, right? So I think that this kind of like, um, you know, I don't know, situation that these teams have between each other is much more interesting. So I'm going to hope for a Golden Guardians victory. I think it's going to be 3-2, and it is just so much better for the league is that as long as the series is close, because having these 3-0s makes it so hard to know what team is good. But if we do get this close series, this one time between Golden Guardians and FlyQuest, it means so much for LCS, I think. It means a lot for the NA teams that we've been watching in playoffs who are not sure how strong they are, and we will get a better idea. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy for both FlyQuest and Golden Guardians that they got here, though.
I mean, this is basically the finals we were hoping for, FlyQuest versus Golden Guardians. I mean, it's happening finals weekend, so kind of got what we wanted, right? I'm going to be really
called the finals.
That's
finals,
that's right. So I'm going to be excited to see that match either way because it is like, two new teams up there, battling it out, even though it's not the actual final match. I think it'll still be exciting. In my book, in my opinion, at least, even though FlyQuest has been number 2 and held that number 2 spot, I still think it's C9 and then everybody else. But yeah, FlyQuest out of that mush can probably, just from talent alone, probably win those games. But even if they come out on that, I just still think C9 is just overall better team. Just gonna, like, I don't even know if it'll be close at this point in the stage that FlyQuest is in right now. I mean, obviously if they tuned it up, it could be different. But and because this is the last episode before the finals, again, just going back, is anybody not predicting C9 to win the whole thing? Because I mean, is anybody legitimately? I mean, Kevin, because Kevin, you said FlyQuest this whole time. Are you still holding on to this? That kind of was your all in. I know you didn't like declare it officially, but you did predict FlyQuest the whole thing. So
yeah, I believe that through Best of Fives they would get together in time. But like, I can't, in good faith, like watch those games and say that they could do it, right? They could like legitimately just go in 3-0 and just everyone's firing. But like, we saw the series, right? Unless Winsome comes in and he's like the Messiah. Like there's no way they should be able to win, and if they do it would be like a miracle close game, right? So no, I can't predict that. That's why I didn't all in on them either. But yeah, I don't think FlyQuest will win if they make it there.
Okay.
And I don't think it'll be close. I think it'll be, if FlyQuest make it, it's 3-1. If Golden Guardians make it, it's probably still 3-0. Like I'm okay with cursing them so that they can DRX run it like last
There you
year.
go.
I'm okay with that. If I just keep saying the wrong thing and they keep winning, that's fine with me. I'm very happy either way. But,
well, I obviously cursed EG big time, so my words have some weight here. 3-0, they got 0-3.
That's terrifying.
That's terrifying. Yeah.
I will say with C9, I mean, even though they 3-0'd and they looked very dominant, there were still a lot of close fights against FlyQuest, especially in the early parts of the game. Game 1 especially was very close, very tense. Like FlyQuest was not that far behind, and all of FlyQuest drops outscaled, but FlyQuest could not keep it in their pants. Like they just had to fight, they had to contest everything, and it's like, yo, you guys are running at a Varus Heimerdinger, or like, what do you guys expect? Like they're up like 4K. Varus Heimerdinger is at their spike. It's only 15-20 minutes in the game. Like, I feel like FlyQuest also, if they just took a deep breath in their series, like there's definitely some games there where they just outscale hard. Like they could be down 10K Dragon Soul and they could win like a 40-minute game or a 35-minute game. But they just kept contesting things, they kept fighting, they kept jumping in there, and then boom, game's over 25-30 minutes. So like FlyQuest, I mean, they could still do that, right? Like that's an adjustment that is hard to make, but conceptually is very easy to identify. So I wouldn't count them out. Like if I'm C9, like I'm not like saying like, oh yeah, we win already, right? Like FlyQuest and Golden Gardens can legitimately improve and be very scary. Like I think Golden Gardens is on the same boat where like they are clearly just copying whatever they can get and improving as much as possible. We don't know like how many strides these teams can make. So I'm still predicting Cloud9. I predicted them from the very beginning. I am not gonna say 3-0 though. I think it's gonna be a bit closer than that in the finals, with regards to whatever team is playing against them. A bit of that is hopium because I am so bored of 3-0s.
Yeah,
but
for real.
but also a bit of that is just like realistically, like C9 winning a bunch of stuff. All their games were fairly close in the early game, and they're playing early game drafts. So I mean, it's not unbeatable, right? They're not the best team in the world, so
Yeah,
you can beat them. I mean,
it's
obviously it's
true.
beatable. Yeah.
Okay. Do you
But
guys got?
I'm still gonna win it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to like. If you were to put money on it, would you put money on the other
I
team?
mean,
That's always the.
predicted
That's always the
Cloud9
thing.
before the split even started.
There you go.
know,
You did.
so-
Yeah. So stay with it. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys got final thoughts? You could talk about meta. Any other things that you guys want to mention, or I have something, but I'll let you guys go first. If you got any final things you want to bring up.
Yeah, the final thing I want to bring up is, please, for the love of God, let Zeri die. Just let
Oh,
her
yeah.
go into the way of like the old
Me too.
Olaf,
I'm done.
the old Aurelios, the old whatever broken things have ruined the game. I just don't want to see it. Okay, I don't want to see like ruler be a god, be a god and just push everyone by himself for the 30th time. Like it's cool, but like I don't want to see it. I'm actually surprised that Berserker didn't play once in his win, which just makes it more impressive. But like this character's too centralized. It's too powerful for what it is, and like it's interesting, but I want it to be like in a very specific scenario, kind of like when you saw Draven be pocket picked. That's cool.
Yeah.
But when you see it every game, it's kind of like when Udyr came back. It's not fun anymore, guys. It's not cool.
Yeah.
So please just let it die. And I think it is getting nerfed for MSI, which sucks in a different way because like some of these people are qualifying being carried by like characters like that, and they won't be able to play it, and so they're just gonna suck at MSI. Awesome.
True.
Very cool.
I
Alright.
really hope we get Draven at finals. That's all I'm saying.
That would be
I
fun.
really want Draven at finals.
I want Draven too. I was like, FlyQuest, can you please ban Varus so he can just pick, so he can pick Draven?
Exactly.
Yeah,
They did buff his gold reward from 2 to 2.5 per stack, and I think it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
I got some comments on the meta too, like 13.7 it was. I think we got a ton of the nerfs to the top tier champs that were throughout the year. And I just got to say, what the hell, Riot? Okay, it is Sejuani, Maokai, Vi, and Wukong have been meta for over a year. Not a year, over a year. Since last year's spring split, these champions were meta back then too. Okay, not Maokai, but the other three were. And then Maokai has been just perma prio since all of summer split last year to now. And they're finally nerfing Sejuani, Vi, and they're nerfing Zeri and Wukong. They're not nerfing Maokai. I hope they hit him in 13.8. But the nerfs, God, they're not enough. Like, I think we'll do a patch rundown for a different podcast, but they are not enough, guys. Trust me, we are still going to see Zeri. We're still going to see Sejuani. We're still going to see Wukong. We're still going to see Vi. Like, they barely got touched. And jungle is just a doggy role. It's super low econ. Just, play for the team, match the waves. Like, playing to farm is still not super great of a strategy. Obviously, things can change depending on which teams go to MSI, but I imagine most teams right now have junglers who just play those same 4 champions, and that's how they are going to qualify for MSI. So that's my comment on the meta, because even though
Is this the MSI patch or no?
I think
Not
we got
yet.
one or two
One more. Okay.
Yeah,
There's one more.
one more. But I mean, I just gotta say, like, it's funny. Riot made so many changes this year. Riot
Yeah.
had 5 to 6 game-breaking patches, and guess what? Look at the drafts. They're almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny. I mean, it's definitely not just Riot's fault, right? It's the players. Like, the players got good at something, and they realized that, hey, when push comes to shove, and we're on an elimination game, like, just play what we're good at. It's fine if it's nerfed a little here and there. Like, it's just so much easier to play what we're good at. So I just think
it's also like, if you've, it might be better, even if it's weaker, if you execute it better, that's still probably a better strategy than, this champ by itself might be stronger. But can we execute it together as a whole comp? Like that might. It's kind of like solo queue. Yeah, you could pick the hot new pick, or you could pick the champ that you're really comfortable with, even if it's not top tier, and you still perform really well. I think I'd have to say that I think you're right. I think especially when stuff is on the line, like you want to pick something you can play almost with your eyes closed, because it's going to come down to execution.
These guys have had literally probably like hundreds of games
Mm-hmm.
just playing Maokai, Sejuani, Vi, Wukong. Just hundreds. Just
Yeah.
this year, maybe. So, yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? It's hard for Riot. I will also say that. Oh my god. Never mind. I forgot what I was going to say.
He brain farted.
Yeah,
Boomer.
okay.
All right.
Never mind. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me say my thing, and if it comes back, you can
Okay.
you can come back to it. I was just gonna say that I don't know if this is true or not, but Monty put out a thing where it's rumored that the LCS may be changing their format to similar to the LEC. Again, this is something we've talked about a lot. I think we were kind of saying that it was going to happen because there's just so many other places that are doing it. It seems to be better for fans and viewers, and so I just wanted to put that out there. I don't know if it'll be exactly the same or whatever, but do you guys got any thoughts about that? I mean, I just want more games, and I want them to mean something. I think that's really, my thoughts, and I hope that happens.
Yeah, I think if this format coincides with LPL and LCK, and we just have 3 international tournaments, this is perfect. Like,
Yeah.
it has issues, sure, but the fact that BDS is the #1 team right now, and they didn't bring in a bunch of imports or anything. They just have Adam and Shio and some of the old players and some of the new players, sure. And they're just #1 in the regular season. That's crazy. This actually changed everything. Dude, Fnatic is out.
Yeah.
And, a lot of these old powers are just falling out. Mad just got absolutely stomped, right? Throughout the regular season. So I think it's a great format. It has some flaws, sure, but I think that the regular season has just been exciting to watch. I watched them week 1, and I'm like, you only got 2 more weeks, guys.
Yeah.
You gotta figure shit out. It basically feels like do or die all the time. And
I like it.
I think NA would benefit a lot for having that kind of pressure behind them. So I want to see it. I want to see it maybe with some modifications, sure, whatever. Figure out your little stuff to make it more interesting, but that's the format we should be going with. And the reason why I think it will happen, and why I think the rumor is at least likely to happen at the rate it's going, is because we were going to do this anyways. The only reason we didn't change is because the owners didn't want to have a time change,
Yeah,
dates and stuff, and a league change. And I think the owners were kind of stupid for that, because you already had a negative change. You should have something interesting to gloss over that, right? To make things feel like there are stakes for a reason to watch. But no, they went for the same old, same old. 2 orgs died in the year
Yeah.
that this happened. So honestly, good riddance for them. They made a bad choice. They shouldn't. I think it was a relatively close vote, but it's just dumb. Why did you keep the crappy format? We made a bad choice. So we need to make a good choice to even out. They're
yeah,
let's
exactly.
Play it safe. Let's see what happens. I hate it.
All right. Any other thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm down for it. I'm down for 3 international tournaments. I think that we just have always sorely missed some games between some of our top teams, right? There's so many what ifs when you think about the massive history that League of Legends has. What if this team played this team, right? I mean, you just think to IG versus KT is a very popular one. They played in quarterfinals, and then IG went to 3-0 everybody else. That feels very KT should have had chances to play the other teams that were not the world champions, right? They could have made second place. So when you think of just all these different scenarios, yeah, more international tournaments makes a lot of sense.
Heck
And then
yeah.
when you think about LCS adopting this, I mean, how many times have we said regular season doesn't matter? It's been a broken record for years. Us and pro players are saying it, right? And then you go to summer, right? It's regular season really doesn't matter when you have top 8. And players are checking out, right? How many teams do we have just checking out for so long during the regular season?
Exactly.
So make it more intense, make it shorter, and just get to the good stuff, right? We have a ton of best of 1 practice, and we don't even make it out of groups which are best of 1s. So give us some best of 3 practice.
Exactly.
Give us some best of 5 practice.
That's right.
What's the point, right? So yeah, I mean, just make things more interesting, make things quicker, make things faster, and make everything matter more. It's just makes sense. Like, why have things not matter, right? So
Exactly. Yep.
I'm fully down for it. And it's just, I think it'll be good for League of Legends. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I think just that's what makes it interesting when it actually counts for something. Well, that's gonna do it. I mean, this weekend it's the finals in Raleigh. Alistair is actually gonna be staying at my house. This bed right here is actually gonna be his. So that's gonna be exciting. We're gonna show him some Southern hospitality, but it should be fun. I'm excited for it. But that's it. Guys, it was a great time talking about all the predictions and stuff. Now we got to see what actually happens. But until next time, guys, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.